Happy Monday, all you minties. Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at the Savage Avengers Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before getting started, I want to give a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this book. And this book was advanced. I think I got it in October, because this book was originally supposed to be released in November, December. But then for some reason, it kept slipping into this year. And the crazy thing is, I had some viewers send me pictures of their Amazon order from, I think it was New Zealand, might have been Australia, that got a copy of this already back in January. So the dates have been really weird. As a matter of fact, the date that I have right now is March 21st, for both the direct market and the book market. But then other websites are showing the 28th. But regardless, it is real and it is coming out. What we're looking at here is the standard edition cover by David Finch. On the left hand side is your direct market cover by Mike Deodato Jr. And again, there is a difference in the spines, but everything else underneath the dust jacket is identical. So let's take a closer look back at this cover right here, featuring some of the key players of this story, mainly this guy, the Cimmerian, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. The logo, Savage Avengers with the sword going through it, very nice, very nice. Venom and Brother Voodoo, or sorry, he got a degree, Dr. Voodoo, Punisher, Elektra in that outfit that I don't think she really wears throughout here. And of course, the man himself, Wolverine. Savage Avengers offers insanely cool, unbridled violence for the heavy metal crowd. Yeah, I can agree with that, if you like Conan, because that's what you're getting here. Duggan, Searcher, Deodato Jr., Tartaglia, and Martin right there as the creators, including their names right here on the spine. So, Marvel Omnibus, Savage Avengers, there's a shot right there of Conan by Patrick Searcher, and then the back of the book showing some of the internal artwork and mainly some of that Mike Deodato Jr. art. The book retailing for $100, parental advisory, mainly due to the over-the-top violence. This is just one comic you have got to read. There's no way around it. The Savage Horde of Conan. Now, I'm going to talk about the first story arc here in a little bit, and I'll put timestamps in the description of the video if you want to skip, or if you just want to mute me and look at the pretty pictures. But I feel like I have to give you the premise of the story. Now, if you're wondering, what the hell is Conan doing hanging out with these 616 characters, that story is not here. That story can actually be found in a trade paperback called Avengers No Road Home. It's written by these gentlemen right here, Mark Waid, Al Ewing, Jim Zub. And it's pretty much, yes, it focuses on the character of Hercules, but this is the story that brings the Cimmerian to our timeline, that brings him out of the Hyborian Age, or from the Hyborian Age, to the 616 universe. So if you want to read how Conan is stranded in the Savage Land at the beginning of this story, this is the trade for you. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is that this trade paperback that I reviewed a couple of months ago, towards the end of last year, by David Pepose, this is Savage Avengers Time is the Sharpest Edge. None of this is collected in this omnibus. This is the Gerry Duggan run. This would be known as the second series of Savage Avengers. So even though it features Conan and it features some of the characters that appear through here, this is not collected in here. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a closer look at this dust jacket right here, and then we'll look at the art on board. But it's got this design like the Conan Omnis. Like the design of these flaps right here. It kind of reminds me of the Conan Omnis. So the question is, where do you put this omnibus? Do you put it with your Avengers Omnis, like right after the most modern Avengers run, whatever it may be? Or do you put it with the Conan stories? Do you put it at the tail end of the Conan Omnis, when really this happens before King Conan in chronological order? So it really depends on who you are, or maybe you just want to put it in alphabetical order and store it under S, which would save you a lot of trouble. I think for me, since this feels more like a Conan story than an Avengers story, I may just put it with the Conan books. But it really depends on how Volume 2 is going to be collected too, because that one actually feels more like an Avengers story than a Conan story. All right, let's look at this art on board by Patrick Searcher, which has a red tone to it. So here are some key players and some other ones like Hellstrom there, Black Widow, Doctor Strange, and Magic. And also, of course, Conan, Wolverine, and Elektra. All right, we're going to open this book up, and I'm going to talk about the premise of the book, how all of these characters kind of get together. I'll talk about the content and the extras, and then, of course, the build of the book like I normally do. I'll put timestamps when I'm talking about the extras and the build for the people that don't want any kind of spoilers. But just in case, minor spoilers talking about the premise, not going into too many heavy details. All right, let's talk about Savage Avengers. All right, let's go ahead and crack this book open. We have some black end sheets here. And Savage Avengers with Dr. Voodoo up there. This is a Mike Deodato Jr. piece. The symbiote, which isn't really Venom, and Conan right there. Well, not at first. I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. Elektra, Punisher, and Wolverino right there. And here are your credits. The writer, of course, all being Gerry Duggan. However, in Savage Avengers 0, that reprints stories from Uncanny X-Men 190 and 191, and that's, of course, written by Chris Claremont, so they do give him credit there. But here are all the artists, Mike Deodato Jr. doing the first 5 issues, and then you have some fill-in artists, Kim Jacinto and Ron Garney, Patrick Searcher being probably the most art that you're going to see through here. Butch Guys, so nice to see those names, Greg Smallwood, and Adam Gorman. Kev Walker joining for Savage Avengers 17 through 19, and that's the King in Black story. And Empire, Savage Avengers is done by Greg Smallwood. So that is the thing to keep in mind. This has free Comic Book Day 2019 Avengers, Savage Avengers, Uncanny Omar talk Pretty one day, Savage Avengers, one, just the Savage Avengers part, and then this also has Savage Avengers 1 through 28, the 2019 series, not that series by David Pepose that I showed a little bit earlier, annual number 1 from that series, issue number 0, which also includes Uncanny X-Men 190 to 191 without the covers, and then Empire Savage Avengers. That's been left out of the solicits, and it was something that you all asked if I could ask Marvel if they could add it. Well, they never really got back to me, but in the end, it looks like they did, so thank you all for asking. Here we go. They added it here, and that's towards the tail end of this for the people wondering. All right, so what is the premise? What's going on? How in the hell is Conan hanging out with Wolverine, Elektra, Punisher, and Venom? What is this about? Well, it all starts off in the Savage Land, and that's where Conan is hanging out. Wolverine is trying to solve a mystery. He has the disappearance of a friend, and we see this opera singer get kidnapped, and he's being sacrificed. Again, the violence here is what's causing that parental advisory. It has that Conan-like violence. But this is where you see Conan just show up in the Savage Land fighting the Hand. Now, of course, I roll my eyes at this, right? Like, I was like, oh, this is so freaking stupid. This is like one long what-if issue. But is there anything wrong with that? Because I actually like those what-if stories. What if Conan was living in modern times? What if Conan fought Wolverine? Of course, that's Wolverine traveling back to the Hyborian age. But this is really, what if Conan was living in modern times and he's fighting the Hand? And then what if he ran into these group of other savages that are living in modern time? Would he be friends with them? How would he handle Wolverine? And this is exactly how it would play out. He doesn't know who Wolverine is. He can't tell if he's a friend or foe. All he knows is that he's going to strike him down, and there's this huge, ridiculous fight with Wolverine. And I love the introduction to each other. Like, he's like, I'm Conan of Samaria. And he's like, Logan of Paps. I thought that was, okay, it made me snicker, so I appreciated that. There it is, I am Logan of Paps. I thought that was a nice character interaction moment. That's how Wolverine and Conan kind of meet each other. He's looking for a friend, and Conan is down there fighting a bunch of ninjas in the Savage Land. Eventually, Dr. Voodoo gets involved. He gets kidnapped, so they're out to save him, Wolverine and Conan, from somebody that's sacrificing him. Now, this somebody, of course, has big ties to Conan. And really, if you read a lot of the older comics, this character actually has bigger ties to Red Sonja, but, you know, licensing, you can't collect those. So instead, they kind of write him into the Conan myth. And actually, he has fought Conan in crossovers and things like that. And he is the cause of that whole issue 190 and 191 of Uncanny X-Men. So, of course, I'm talking about Conan Goth, character that has been in Conan's past, and now his plan is to wreck the world by resurrecting the Marrow. I believe it's the Marrow King. So it's up to our characters to team up together to stop him. Now, later on, of course, they are joined by Elektra and the Punisher. Punisher's looking for his family. As a matter of fact, Punisher is about the only character that kind of feels like he's shoehorned in, which is really weird to say, because when I first started reading this, I thought, well, how are they going to write Conan into this? It really doesn't make any sense. I'm sure they're going to shoehorn him in some way and make it kind of sort of make sense. But no, not really. It kind of makes sense from the get-go. So that's why this story feels more like a Conan story and less of an Avengers story. As a matter of fact, don't be fooled by those first few issues. Don't be fooled by the covers. The rotating cast of this is forever rotating. The only characters that kind of show up throughout every issue, except for the first 5, are Doctor Strange, Conan Goth, and Conan. Those are the key players. So the symbiote that I was talking about a little bit earlier, it's not Venom at first. He's another symbiote from the past. So yes, this plan from Conan Goth, he's been working on it for over 12,000 years. And of course, these characters are there to stop him. And stop him they will. However, Conan Goth gets away and he runs to live another day. So he will be back. Then we get an annual here of Conan kind of reliving adventures in the present time. He gets to meet Black Widow. He eventually gets to meet Doctor Strange. He meets Hellstrom. Meanwhile, like I mentioned, Conan Goth plays a role in the back. This right here is by far one of my favorite issues. And this could serve as one of the best modern issues. And it is the issue where I believe it's issue number 7, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Bar Hop. This is the issue where he is invited. Conan is invited to Latveria by Doom. Now, Doom wants something from him, and Conan's like, I don't need anything from you. So Doom offers him food, and he's like, okay, I guess I'll go. But I like the interaction between Conan and Doctor Doom. And then later on, you kind of see this team up between Doctor Doom and a couple of other characters that were completely unexpected. And all of it because they're trying to figure out what exactly is Conan Goth, what is his plan. And then you get, I believe this is the issue number 0. So yeah, issue number 0, by the way, sometimes the variants are on the opposite side of the covers, the main covers. So issue number 0 works kind of like a flashback. It's more of an X-Men story, but it tells the story of how Conan Goth took over New York City, which 2 of the most underrated X-Men issues. These have already been collected in Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 4. I love these stories. I've gone on about how great they are. It's pretty much a 2-parter where Conan Goth just reimagines Earth and it makes it into, or actually just New York, upstate New York, and makes it into a fantasy world that features the X-Men, Spider-Man, and the Avengers. And then they kind of put that in the middle of this issue number 0. And they kind of put that in the middle of this issue number 0, that is the Savage Avengers number 0, to kind of tell you a little bit of background of Conan Goth. But now we have some Patrick Searcher on artwork. We have the Black Knight showing up. We have a couple of other characters that show up through here that you may not think fit into the Avengers lore. But really, what this is, it's Conan and Friends. I really like the way that Gerry Duggan wrote Conan. I think he understood the character. Because, yes, he's a barbarian, so of course you're going to have fun with Wolverine towards the beginning. You're just going to have a great night out. This is drawn by Kev Walker, by the way. You're going to have a great night out drinking with Deadpool. But when you get to that end, and I'm not going to talk about that ending, when he figures something out that everybody else is like, huh, well, we didn't think about that. You're like, yeah, man. Duggan gets him. Because by the time you get to King Conan, you know, he's a ruler. He's a well-read guy. He's not a barbarian anymore. He has been a man that has seen a lot of things in life. His vocabulary, well, his vocabulary is not bigger than it was towards the beginning of his adventures, but you could tell that he's a lot smarter than he lets on. He's not just a barbarian. He's not just a guy from Samaria. I thought that Gerry Duggan actually captured that really well. I think this is one of the better introductions to Conan, as a matter of fact. If you've never read a single Conan comic, this will get you excited for that. These are the King in Black tie-ins. It's just him and Deadpool drinking out one night and then having a team up. And then this is the last story arc right there. Which again, like I said, Conan Goth playing a big role in all of this. Then we have a little more X-Men. And yeah, that's all I will say about it. I think I've said enough. I mean, there's 28 issues. It's a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. Is it stupid fun? You damn right it's stupid fun. If you're expecting Wolverine and Conan just to go at it because they're both these big, savage, barbarian type of characters, you damn right that's what's gonna happen. And that's what you expect and get out of this. To me, this is not an Avengers comic. This, like I mentioned several times, is Conan the Barbarian meets a bunch of people, and they kind of hang out because they all have one job to do, and that's to take out Conan Goth. And what I wish was collected in here is maybe just part of that No Road Home. That would have been nice to see how he got thrown into this world. I think that would have been a really good addition. One of the things I didn't mention that kind of brings a lot of this together is the colors. So you have Frank Martin towards the beginning doing the colors. And then towards the back here, you have a lot of colors by Java Tartaglia. But the colors are very similar, and it kind of brings the stories together, like the artwork together, even though Mike Deodato Jr.'s art is a lot different than Patrick Searcher or Kev Walker, for that matter. But I did want to mention that before we look at Empire here. Alright, let's welcome everybody back that didn't want any kind of spoilers. We're going to be looking at the back matter, but before we do, I said this a little bit earlier in the spoiler section, that this book does indeed contain Empire Savage Avengers #1. They did add it here, even though the contents everywhere else states that it's not in there, but it is in there. It's in there in full. It is all the way at the end, so after you read the main story, that's where you're going to find this, but it does tie more towards the Empire crossover. So let's look at the extras. Here's some goodbye notes from the final issue, issue number 28, from Gerry Duggan and Patrick Searcher and Java Tartaglia. And then we have some of the variant covers. And in the spoiler parts, I talked about how some of the variant covers are collected on the opposite page of the standard covers. Nick Bradshaw right there. Symbiote covers. Here's a... what is this one? The Immortal variant? Annual variants. Michael Cho. Some original artwork right there. Some finished with inks. And then the end sheets right there. Alright, let's look at the binding. So the book does have sewn binding. It has 776 pages. And here is what the eye looks like, or not much of an eye rather looks like. Classic Conan page, of course I have to stop at that. But let's look at the way that it folds or lays over, not folds over. Let's look at a splash page or spread. Let's look at the spread page here towards the beginning. So you saw not much of an eye, 776 pages. I still think for that many pages you do need a little bit of an eye. And that would help with artwork like this. So you don't have to hold it down to see the entirety of it. So you do get some gutter loss right there. So the gutter curve. But it's not terrible. You know, you do get a lot of the artwork. And towards the beginning, there's not that many spread pages. Now, let's talk about the paper stock. Because something I noticed immediately when I started reading this is the paper stock they're using in here feels like the paper stock that they've used in the Conan Omnis. But it's a little bit glossier. But it's as thick as the paper stock that they've used in the Conan Omnis. So for example, here, there's a lot of white up there. So you do get just a little bit of bleed through. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. You can't see it. But it's there. It's just very minimal. But I did want to point that out, that the paper stock in this seems as thick as the Conan Omnis, which was usually thicker than a lot of the modern Omni runs. But let me find a bright... I was looking for something like this, but this doesn't seem to have art on the other side. This is perfect because this both has the spread page that I need to show you. This is issue number 3, what it looks like. You still have to hold it down. It's gutter curve right there. And then some of the minimal bleed through from the opposite side. You can tell there's a word bubble right there. I mean, I know this bothers some people and it doesn't bother others, but I do like to be as thorough as I can. But yeah, that's what it looks like. So that's it. Only thing missing that I wish they had added in here was some of that no road home. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcon at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the page count, the content, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, if you already have the trades, if you read it in single issues, what you thought of the story. Are you hoping that this book gets a reprint and they can continue printing Conan and stories like Savage Avengers? And if you have any more questions, Mir, Uncanny Omar Talk Pretty One Day. If you have any more questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe and check out our Patreon. It's a phenomenal way to support the channel. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.